and 17th centuries. Remarkable years in the history of India, the medieval history, that is Mughal period, the history which had many ups and downs, the history in which although India expanded, the territory expanded far and wide, we had so many other developments in the field of architecture, but a number of wars, a number of battles that were fought. Hello students, we are at the 9th chapter of your second book, that is the 16th and 17th century history, and the chapter's name is The Kings and the Chronicles. Yes, for the first time the chronicles were written. Chronicles means the history of the Mughal emperors according to the dates, according to the dynasties, according to the years. That was systematically written, and the Mughal Empire, which is known for its grandeur, which is known for its richness and fascination for the other powers, a fascinated empire, an empire full of grandeur, an empire full of richness that was established. Mughals, the word was taken from Mongol initially, but actually the Mughal emperors, particularly Babur, he called Mongols as barbaric. So we will discuss that how the word originated. Is it originated by the historians themselves? We will also discuss in this chapter that whatever chronicles were written during the 16th and 17th century, how when the East India Company came to India and they wanted to know about the Indian culture of this time, because I told you this was a very important century as far as Indian history is concerned. So how they began to get all these literary chronicles, the literary works translated, and got a glimpse of this great empire, right? So we will go through this chapter systematically, and there are so many 1-mark questions in this chapter. I will tell you again and again, and you must note it in your note copy. The Mughal rulers came to establish their empire in the name of God's will, as we were discussing in the earlier chapters also, that it was a divine will that they have been given the authority to rule over the people. An empire that was known for its dynastic histories. The different rulers ruled at different times and acted according to their own will, as well as according to the political situation, according to the political circumstances at that time, because this was the time when there were battles, there were sieges, etc. So the Mughal rulers, to have their chronicles, they commissioned historians into their courts. You are very much familiar with the name of Abul Fazl. Yes, the historians, the writers, the poets, they were commissioned at the court, and they were asked to write their continuous chronological history, continuous, ever growing, continuous chronological record. And this gives us a factual information about the glimpse of the imperial ideologies of these Mughal emperors. Imperial ideologies means they expanded the empire far and wide. They came particularly from the Turkish region, and in India they extended, particularly Akbar and Aurangzeb. Akbar extended his empire up to Hindu Kush. So there was extension of empire, there was a number of historians, a number of poets, a number of writers whose name has become very, very famous in history just because they worked for the Mughal emperors. Come on the first topic of Babur. We all know that Babur laid the foundations of the Mughal empire in India. He came to establish his empire. Who was he? Let us discuss something about Babur. I told you that although the Mughal word, according to historians, it is rise from Mongol, but actually Babur called himself as belonging to a descendant from Timurid. and they were the descendants of the Turkish rulers, the Turkish sultans. From his paternal side, that is from the side of his father, Babur, or the full name of Babur is Zahiruddin Babur. He belonged to the Turkish dynasty, to the Turkish descendants, and from his maternal side, he was a Chingizi. He was a Chingizi. So, paternal and maternal side, both were taken together, and then they called themselves the Timurids. What happened that Babur was turned out, he was forcibly turned out badly from Fargana, which was his home place in Central Asia, and then immediately he came to Kabul. And in Kabul, he established himself in 1526. Then Kabul, at that time very close to India, he decided to establish his authority in India. The question is why? Because of two aims, because he had two objectives. The first objective, obviously, as I told you, the territory, because he was turned out by the Uzbeks. Remember, the coming rulers, the coming Mughal emperors, Akbar and other, they will take revenge from the Uzbeks. So Uzbeks turned him out from Fargana, and then he decided, from Kabul he decided to come to India for territory and for the resources. You know, when there was a person from the royal orders used to be taken out during the Mughal period. A person originally from India asked Babur that why he was fascinated towards India. So he laughed and he said that I love the watermelons of India. So these were the resources of India that were attracting the people, particularly Babur, who came to get the resources as well as to get the territory. And we all know that when he came to India, the Lodi dynasty was going on in the country. Ibrahim Lodi, we are familiar with the name of Ibrahim Lodi. He was defeated in the Battle of Panipat with Babur, because Babur had military tactics. We have seen his background from Chingizi and from the paternal side, that is Turkish. So he was a good commander, and in the Battle of Panipat he defeated Ibrahim Lodi and set up the foundations of the Mughal Empire in India. Mughal Empire was set up by Babur from 1527 till 1530. Zahiruddin Babur ruled over India, and he was a true Mughal and laid the foundation. But actually, when he died in 1530, his son Humayun, he ascended the throne, and Humayun took the charge of the country. Then Humayun ruled over. Humayun was a great ruler, as was his father, but he had to face Shesha Suri, the ruler of the Su dynasty. There was a war between Shesha Suri and Humayun. There was a weak point in the character of Humayun. Although he was a good commander, although he won many battles, but after winning every battle, he used to amuse, he used to spend his time in enjoyment and amusement, celebrating his victory. This gave the time to the rival power, to the rival army, to recapture the area and set up their dynasty. So Humayun came to the throne. Humayun was defeated. He again was dethroned, and there was Su dynasty. There was rule of Shesha Suri in India. Then again Humayun came back, because I told you he was a good commander, but he could rule over only for some time. And after that, the main contenders, and on which the historians and the writers of that time, they feel very proud to say that the coming successors were very, very good. They were very powerful, and they extended the empire politically as well as culturally. It was in the form of Jahangir, who was very famous for his paintings, Shah Jahan, who is also very famous for giving us world's heritages, and then finally it was Akbar, a great ruler. About him we have compared Akbar with so many good rulers, and his reign was really a very convenient and a very good reign for all the people. He was a secular king. And then it was the last one was Aurangzeb. After 1707, the downfall of the Mughal Empire began. It was going on during Babur, it was going on during Humayun. Then Akbar consolidated. Actually, Babur laid the foundations of the Mughal Empire, but Akbar consolidated the empire. And Akbar got very good successors in the form of Jahangir, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. 1707 was the year of decline, but Mughal Empire continued up to 1857. When there was revolt of 1857, after this death of Bahadur Shah Zafar II, there was British rule in India. So this was the chronological order. We say Babur, Humayun, then Akbar consolidated the empire. Akbar had very good successors in the form of Jahangir, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb extended the Mughal Empire up to Deccan. For the first time, the whole Deccan came under the Mughal Empire. And after that, when Bahadur Shah Zafar ascended the throne, it was on its decline because he was very old and a very weak ruler. So like this, we go through in this chapter. We will discuss about the court historians. We will discuss about the different writings. We will discuss about Akbarnama, Badshah-nama, the world famous literary works of this time, and then we will proceed the chapter tomorrow. And till then, you prepare your notes on the beginning of the 3 pages of your NCERT, 9th chapter. Till then, it is a very goodbye.